Hello there. How are you doing? Still sunburned from yesterday, mowing the grass, trimming the hedges, washing the car, running 10 million errands. I don't know how regular people do it. I really don't. I do have 3 jobs. That kind of makes it difficult. I would say I can't apply the specific to the universal, but I know people out there aren't making it because I'm not making it. No wife, no kids, no house payment, no car payment. And I'm working 3 jobs, and if I'm struggling, I know it's really, really tough out there. I've made countless videos about what's going on, what on earth is happening, and I've done a lot of thinking on this one, not that I don't think a lot about the other ones. And these are 2 words you should look up, and there have been a lot of leaders, and I say leaders in air quotes because they're not really leaders, they're puppets, or my favorite one, like the British folks say, they call them Muppets. Oh, you're a proper Muppet. Really kind of funny. Canada, UK, Australia, France, Germany, basically the entire Western world. It's called managed decline. Just look up those 2 words, managed decline, and this is what's going on. There's I'm not going to name them, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the guy the dripping face guy. He looks like Emperor Palpatine from the first series of Star Wars movies. Yeah. He looks like Darth Vader when they finally took his mask off, that guy. And there's the other guy, I call him the Q-tip guy. They've talked about this endlessly. It's called managed decline. And you can say this is, you know, little bits and pieces, but it's not. And I've asked lots of people, no less than 100, just here recently, if it's actually getting that bad, or we're just seeing a slice of interesting stuff posted on Instagram and other places. They say, no, it really is that bad. Of course, everybody is talking about 2-tier Kier. My favorite one, and there's a video of it, and it's real. And he says, the door is open. If you don't like it, the door is open. I don't know what you would think about any particular world leader of any specific country that said, well, if you don't like it, the door is open. You could always head out. I don't know what the British people think about that. The stuff that I see coming out of the UK is just absolutely unbelievable in the worst kind of way imaginable. And this is a bold statement, and I've asked a lot of British citizens this, since I am not one, even though I'm part Brit. I'd love to go there. Why haven't I been there? Because it's too expensive. You can't make any other conclusion, and this is also true of Australia, Kiwi land, very true of Canada, and of course these are all crown countries. You can't make any other conclusion other than the UK and these other countries that they unequivocally, undeniably despise the very own citizenry that they're meant to uphold and protect. They're doing exactly the opposite. Can you draw any conclusion that the UK, their leaders, anything other than despise their own citizenry? Interesting one, and I've seen several videos of this from different angles. I saw a protest in the UK, and one side was heralding freedom. They were holding up signs wanting freedom, less tyranny, you know, people not getting knocks on the door in the middle of the night over their fake book posts, which I think they're arresting how many people per week in the UK over like innocent fake book posts? You know, they're wanting freedom. And the other side over here is really angry at the side over here in the UK. I guess that would be the Muppet citizenry, right? Interestingly enough, they have very, very colorful hair, and of course I got big holes in my ears, but you know, a lot of, call them bull rings, really, because you see bulls on the farm near the fence, you know, chewing the grass, you know, they got a big giant ring right there. There's a lot of people on that side, and they're extremely angry at all the British citizenry over here that wants nothing but freedom. And these people over here, they're all British citizens, presumably, at least they appear to be. Accent, you know, born and raised in the UK. calling the freedom lovers over here fascistas. It's like, I find that very funny that the people that are so quick to anger are really, really angry over the people over here. Most of the people over here, their fathers and grandfathers fought in Deutschland in WW2 against that ideology, and they love freedom, but they're the ones that are being accused of. The irony there is just so thick. It's just thicker than stone. You can't even cut it with a knife. I don't know what you think about that. That's not important. It is very important, but I don't know how much you know about the history of Rome. There's a lot of, even some of the best experts kind of disagree on Rome, but I mean general consensus, and of course no such thing as truth by consensus, is that Rome rotted from within over many centuries. They of course did the whole conquer, plunder, and repeat. Conquer, plunder, and repeat. They were, after it started rotting really bad, they started importing menial labor from the people that they were conflicting against, Gauls and Britannia, and Emperor Caracalla in 212 AD. He basically gave citizenship to every free man of Rome, and this of course was for taxes. The world leaders today are extremely unintelligent and even less creative and imaginative. Everything that happened during the collapse, the control collapse, and of course gets back to a managed decline, is mirroring the rot of Rome back in the day. All of this, of course, is for taxes. They had mercs that were conflicting for Rome, like the Goths and the Franks, and you know, they gave citizenship to basically everybody, and this is to boost the tax base. The plebeian Roman farmers collapsed under the weight of their own debt right before Rome, you know, kind of frittered away into what we would call Rome. Rome never perished, it just kind of scattered, kind of like some gaseous odor in the wind. I mean, it didn't vanish, it's all still kind of there, it just became Byzantium. But this video is not about Rome, of course, but they stopped trying to save it. They just wanted to control the collapse. And everything in the Western world is exactly this, except the collapse is being engineered, you know, from these entities, and there's 5 primary ones, and I don't need to name them, you know exactly who they are. When the effort to save something is greater than the political will to save it, of course these people don't want to save anything, what you do is a controlled crash. Used to skydive, they call it PLF. You know, when you're going to hit the ground hard, you'd actually put your knees in a certain way that your knees would act like shock absorbers, and you kind of, you know, this roll maneuver, this controlled collapse, so you didn't cause any damage to yourself when you were skydiving. All of this is absolutely a controlled collapse, but the collapse itself has already been engineered from within. This managed decline is undeniably intentional. I know a lot of people are happy that the old guy here in the United States, you know, that didn't remember his own name is gone, and I do get that. I mean, I know the misery and tyranny that we've been living under for the past 4 years, and I don't care about politics, but I gotta tell you, you may not like to hear this, but I don't trust, you know, the old Cheeto Jesus. That's kind of funny. That's the only reason why I say it, is because it's funny. At least it is to me. Or the Orange Man. These tariffs are absolutely a brilliant way of collapsing this country. They're another vector on a path of managed decline. I don't know if you realize it or not. I mean, these 250% tariffs, and the tariffs where nobody's moving, and I know Xi's not going to move because he would lose his base in the party if he looks to blink first. And I know quite a few things about, by the way, I've had a couple friends recently return from China. They say a lot of the factories are sitting idle, and they're willing to suffer a moderate amount of time over there to achieve the goals of the party. You know, Americans in Western society, which I really love, and I can't stand socialism, we're all for ourselves, more or less, but maybe we'll work collectively towards a single goal. But over there, they are willing to do whatever it takes to support kind of like an ant colony. I hate to say that. You know, my ex-girlfriend is Chinese. You know, we got along fine. I'd still be dating her if she wasn't so absolutely mean. Um, you know, everything works towards, you know, supporting the Queen and supporting the collective. And they're willing to go the long haul, but they need us a lot more than we need them. And that's not my opinion. That's a fact. I've talked to several people that are back there, like I said, and they said a lot of factories are sitting cold and idle. For the first time in many years, certain parts of the country, you can breathe the air cleanly because the factories aren't running. They're not belching out tons of toxins. That's not funny, but it's you know, it's really quite horrible. We have an issue here in the United States as well, and it's really bad. And I've talked to a lot of Germans and a lot of French and a lot of Brits, a lot of Canadians, and quite a lot of Australians. They got the same thing we do. There's just no disposable income anymore. I have the exact same issue. Not that I ever had any disposable income. I'd always invest it. I sold 2 properties of mine to buy an investment piece of property here, which I have some passive income coming in from that. But I mean, it's a really expensive property here in town. You know, the property taxes are, I've been told, are going to be $1,500 a year, which isn't bad, but I already have a renter out there, a nice lady in her mid-60s. And I rented out my other farm about 60 miles from here that I've had for many years. And so I have those 2 pieces of rental property. But I'm not going to be able to keep any of that. It's all just going to go to bills, monthly bills, gas, water, electric, phone, cell, satellite, save up the rest of that for food and gas, and what little bit of that is left towards yearly property taxes, which I estimate is right around $4,000 that I have to pay now. But nobody has any disposable income anymore. Housing prices are absolutely off the scale. My buddy who lives in Sydney, he just recently moved. I think he's moved twice in the past half year. Showing me lines, or people lined up for like a dumpy one-room apartment around the corner. I know what's happening in Australia is kind of the same that's happening in Canada and the UK and Germany and France and here in the United States. Nobody could afford to buy a piece of property. I've told everybody, you know, how cheap it is here in Kentucky. Another state like that, Tennessee is nothing like Kentucky, by the way. South Carolina is kind of the same. West Virginia, you know, very cheap. You can get yourself a lot of property. I've even seen young people on Instagram. I don't know if they're taking my advice, but they're waking up. They're like, I'm going to build a little cabin. Recently, I went to Nicholasville, Kentucky, and there's some really, really 14 by 40 foot houses. I mean, nice houses. They're not trailers. They're houses. They deliver them for free. They're $11,000. You could get a 5-acre farm for like $40,000. That delivered for $11,000. So you're into a nice house and 4 or 5 acres here in Kentucky for $45,000 plus or minus. People are taking my advice, and there are probably other people, you know, rationally giving that advice too. I mean, that's the answer. Everybody says, well, I can't afford a house. Like, you're looking for a nice apartment or condo in the city. You know, live 10 miles outside of the city on a nice piece of land. I know people in the UK and Australia can't do this. You guys tell me the price of property there. It's absolutely astronomical. I'm sorry that's the case. But real wages adjusted for inflation combined with housing prices and the fact that nobody has any disposable income, we actually have a trifecta disaster going on in most of the Western countries, and that's just undeniable. All these Western, kind of use a potato chip bag analogy, all these Western governments are putting less potato chips in, not that I buy potato chips by the way, putting less potato chips in the bag, and they're inflating more air into the Mylar bag. So we're getting less, and we're getting more, you know, paper money to keep our economy afloat. This is slow motion controlled collapse. It's managed decline, as they call it. Europe right now is groaning very loudly, especially out of Germany and France and Belgium. They are groaning loudly for conflict with Russia. I even posted some magazine covers from Germany. They're basically saying, "Yeah, we'll teach you how to to wage conflict in 3 weeks. Like, really? Is that what you're going for, Germany? Is full frontal conflict with Russia? I've heard, and I've been saying this now for a year, that I don't think Russia can actually sustain this much longer. Russia has a lot of kinetic equipment, but their economy is very, very thin. They're sitting on thin ice, Russia's economy is. I've been saying that for a year. People said, oh, you're full of it. It's like, I lived in Russia for a long time. I know how it is in Russia. It's like, well, it's different there in Russia now. Yeah, it is, but not really. It's the same, but different. Birth rate right now, due to pricing and disposable income, and unfortunately, there is an enormous amount of brainwashing in Western society. And you never heard this 20 plus years ago, and I find it to be absolutely reprehensible and disgusting, is that they think like the worst thing you could do is bring a child into this world right now. Nobody thought like that during the Great Depression or WW1 or WW2 or worse periods of time. They didn't think that way. And yet all these people that are living comfortably right now, they think the worst thing they could do. And it's not. It's that they're selfish. Western society is disgustingly, really, really horrifically selfish, unfortunately. 1.66 USA birth rate, 1.3 in Canada. Australia is 1.6. South Korea is 0.63. The economy, a lot of these Western countries where birth rate is declining, would shrink rapidly without record influx of, I'm going to call them, new people. You're doing this on purpose, and also, too, it guts the middle class. So you end up with a bunch of peasants and a bunch of people, sipping their cafe lattes and looking out the third floor of, their palatial estate at the peasants off in the distance. This kind of reminds me of what England used to be like about 150 years ago, which is everything's coming full circle. I did not know this about Australia. It's absolutely abysmal, is that 1 in 3 politicians in Australia is a landlord. 1 in 3. 1 in 3. I am now, for the first time in my life, a landlord of 2 properties. I work 3 jobs and 7 days a week. Whatever you think of me, fine, think it. I don't care. I have 3 jobs. I do work hard, but the people that I know that are quite wealthy, and they're total tightwads too, by the way. They've been, drumming into my head for decades, literally. Passive income, passive income, passive income, passive income, passive income, on and I have been listening. I've been trying to do that, and now I've done it. It's only 2 properties. It's between $1,000 and less than $2,000 a month now that I have in passive income. The renters could default, but man, I thought it might take a while for me to rent those properties out. Man, I had people clawing down my door, not literally, to rent those properties. It's like, if you rented it yet, I want to rent it right now. I'll give you cash. Like, no, here's a nice old lady. Yeah, the person put a yurt on my 5-acre farm. You know what a yurt is, Y-U-R-T. The other lady's living in an RV. She's really, really happy. She loves the land. It's very beautiful. The land cost me a fortune, but I had to sell another piece of land and take what little bit I have from my small portion of the Florida house and stick everything into buying that land here. Everything really kind of is about real estate. I hate to say that, but I've been told that since I was a very young. It's real estate, land, 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 land. You can complain all you want about property taxes. I don't care. Some places have high property taxes, but having a piece of land either for you to live on or to have is even better. A source for rental, for passive income is incredibly important. You can disagree all you want, but I'm not wrong. I'm 100% right on that. Anyway, they're trying to gut the middle class. They're doing a really great job on it. These Western societies are trying to keep people from pushing back. And the way they've done that is created cultural engineering. They tried to strip away any type of national pride somebody would have, common sense, communities. In the UK and Oz and Canada, they have these e-safety commissioners. Commissioners of e-safety, meaning electronic communication, and basically ministers of propaganda. My buddy in Australia has been telling me about this now for like years. Instead of calling it a minister of propaganda, though, they're calling them e-safety commissioners. It's brilliant. These tariffs are very brilliantly collapsing the country. There's no evidence anybody's going to blink. 250% tariffs. You want to manage decline? I mean, that's brilliant. I'm sorry, even though I know how his first term was, I don't trust any politician, and I don't care how good anybody likes him. I don't trust, old Cheeto hair any more than any of the rest of them. They're all working an agenda. They're appealing to crowd A, but what they're really doing is agenda B. Time will tell if that's proves to be true or not, but I don't trust him. There's plenty of people I trust far, far less than him, but I don't trust him either. Can you believe that 1 in 3 politicians in Australia are landlords? Why can't I get a slice of that? Oh, I did. Now I have 2 rental properties. I am a landlord now. I never thought I would be a landlord, but I'm way happier. Job diversification, not really much different than asset diversification. So whatever job collapses on me, and it's sure to happen, just as sure as the sun rises, some job's going to collapse, and I'm going to go to myself, oh my God, oh my goodness. Well, at least I've got 2 rental properties that at least pay the monthly bills, the food, the gas, and the property taxes. I can make up for any spare things for repairs and whatnot by selling leather goods, It's good to be diversified in your life. Real estate is so important. This collapse is still going on, despite some of the good things that have happened over the past couple of months. I see no change. UK and these crown countries have undeniably 100% gone full throttle. Full throttle, not in the good way. Kind of like where they took the brakes off and they stuck it in 5th gear and they broke off the brake lever and, it's going over the cliff. What's happened? The stuff that I see coming out of the UK, real, not contrived, but real, coming out of the UK, is just, there's an old saying here in the southern United States, it's like, it would curl your toenails, which means it's unbelievable. It's like, you just can't believe it. Yeah, you got a crowd of people in the UK that are angry at this crowd of Brits over here that want freedom and peace and rational. Of course, we have people like that here in the USA, by the way. 99% of them are in big urban areas. Nobody with common sense thinks like that, that's living out in small towns, rural America or rural England. They're just not. There's a bit here and there, but essentially it's non-existent. Have you ever asked yourself this question, and I've never heard anybody address it, have you ever wondered why the cray-cray is 99% found in dense urban areas? Have you ever thought about that before? Why is it there's essentially no cray-cray? Like in Bumblescum Mayberry. Towns with like 2,000 or 3,000 or less population. Yeah, how come there's none of the cray-cray going on out there? It might be that they're hard workers, and when they get done in the day, they're like wore out, they take a shower, and they kick back in the chair, and they go, phew. And they wake up, and that doesn't mean they're not thinkers. It just means, you ever thought about that? I hate to say this, but there's no indication that the awful is slowing up. There's just no indication of it at all. None. I would have never guessed or if I were a betting person, bet that the UK, like after the end of the nonsense, which, I don't know, 2023, roughly 2024, the end of the nonsense, that the UK would go from like third gear nutty to like fifth gear full on, Muppet show. For some reason, the British, they like to use the word Muppet. I saw a video where one guy was telling another guy in a hat and a little shiny badge, "Hey, Muppet." I love that. A Muppet. And they arrested him. My favorite one, of course, is the woman, quietly in her own head, standing there peacefully, praying. They arrested her. There's another guy they did that to. Same thing. That is George Orwell 1984 on full octane. You know, like in the movies, so they have the nitrous tank and they crank it open and the engine is revving at X number of thousand and it just goes, that's what the UK is doing right now. And I asked lots of British folk and they say, yeah, it is going on. We can't stand the guy. We just don't know what we're going to do. The UK has fallen. It's collapsed. Canada's working on the same thing. Oz is working on the same thing. Germany. The only countries that seem to be safe are Poland, maybe Romania and Hungary, maybe, definitely Poland. Russia is essentially safe. That's the reason why they're going full throttle on Russia. They're actually beating the drums of conflict in Western Europe against Russia. They are the roadblock in the way to their beautiful utopian, and by utopian I mean dystopian, future ideal, where, there's like 80% fewer peeps on the earth, and, you got the super rich and everybody else is a plebeian peasant farmer wearing like dirt shoes and, growing veggies for the rich folk. That's their image of the future. That's what they're looking and trying to make happen. Sounds funny, but it's not. And that literally is what's going on. You tell me what you think. I read every comment. I trust you, I do. Trust me, I do read every comment. Thanks for watching.